All right, so we're just going to go over querying our data that we inserted from our school database. So to review that, we created a schema file that has addresses, classes, students, and enrollments. And then we added some seed data. This was provided for us. I chose to add one more record, so that's probably not covered here. I added one more record, if I remember that correctly. Let me just add that to the very bottom so we can see it. I added, I think, didn't add an ID because we don't have to. I think student 5 got an A in class 1, I think. I might need to double check that. Does anyone remember what I added? No. All right. All right, so we're gonna do a join here. So our goal here is to find the first name and last name of all students that have an A in any class. So let's do a join on enrollments. All right, what do we want to join on? So this is where, again, we got to figure out what we're trying to link. This is where we're going to link students ID with enrollments ID. All right, the reason I aliased it was because we have multiple tables here. So usually when you have multiple tables, it gets kind of confusing. Here I could write, so let me do it the harder way. I could do students.id with enrollments.id, where is our filter, right? We don't want just the first name and last name of every student that exists in our enrollment table. We should have a criteria. In this case, criteria is where enrollments.grade is equal to A. So we're just gonna say exactly an A. We're not gonna worry about A pluses or A minuses. We want just straight up an A that exists. All right. So in this case, we want first name, students. I think we should just be able to do that. Okay, let's run this, see if it works. If not, we'll adjust. So we'll do \I. Our file is called queries.sql. Okay, so we got Jed. All right, let's look at our data here. So what student is Jed? Jed is student 3. All right, so student ID 3. Let's look through our records. So this is student 2. Where's student 3? Oh, we had another student that had an A. So it looks like this query is not doing what I expected to. Let's see, select first name, enrollments.grade. Oh, sorry. Okay. Anyone see my mistake? I caught my mistake. Does anyone happen to catch it?
Do you need to link the student ID equals enrollments.id?
I want students ID. Here I had enrollments ID. Keep in mind, this is the primary key for the enrollments. I actually want to target students ID in my enrollments. So that was an accidental goof, but a good lesson because I bet some of you guys will make this mistake and it's okay. So understand you want to match the correct fields together. So student ID is a primary key off the students table. I don't want to match the primary key of the enrollments table because that's going to be a whole different value that has nothing to do with the student. I actually care about student ID from my enrollments table because that's what actually should match. So given that, let's try running our query again. So let's do Control L, good trick to learn. All right, there we go. So we got 3 records. We got Elvis Sipes, Leopold Town, and Andre Rohan. Let's actually verify this manually. So I'm going to go to our data file. And again, I might have incorrectly added my last line here. So let's table that. But let's look at our first student here, first record. So this, we have a grade of A, right? That was our criteria. Looking at just matching up these fields, the first value here is the enrollments ID. Again, we don't really care about that. That's just a unique identifier. Student ID is a second value here. So in this case, student 2 has a grade of A. Now, the reason we need to join tables is because we wanted to list the actual names. If we didn't want to list the actual names, our query would be really simple. We just do something like select student ID from enrollments where enrollment grade equals A. So again, if we just wanted a student ID, this would get it for us. But the reason we need to join is because we actually want to get some data about the student that's not stored in our enrollments table. So this is why we joined 2 tables together, enrollments and students. And then we are able to get the first name and last name. Now, so we verified that student 2, oops, schema, data. All right, student 2 has an A. Let's look at who student 2 is. So we're looking for ID value of 2, and that is Elda Sipes. So we do have Elda Sipes over here. Next, let's continue on in our data. All right, we have another record here. We have student ID 4, got an A. So we're going to list that student, which is Leopold Town. All right, so we see Leopold Town down here. And then the last one I wasn't sure about. I think I put student 1, but looks like I did not. That was student 5, apparently. Oh no, that's right, student 5 got an A. So that is Andre Rohan in class 1. So let's actually list the classes that we want. So again, this is gonna make our join a little more advanced. What if I wanna know what classes these particular students got an A in, right? So I'm gonna add another join here on classes. And then we gotta have our matching criteria as in what records to match. So in this case, do we need anything? I don't think we do. So what if we just leave that off and then do classes dot name. Will this work? Not sure. Let's give it a try. So Control L. And we want to do that. Join classes on. Oh, right. So we need to match something. So I want to do classes.id equals enrollments.class ID. So basically, it's going to look for a grade of A. It kind of works backwards. So it's first going to find a record that has an A in the enrollments table. Once it finds that record, it's going to look at the class ID and then match that class ID with something from the classes table. Likewise, it's going to match the student ID for that record from something in the students table. So in this case, if I run this, Control L, notice we get the class name inserted there, right? So it looks like Elda Sipes got an A in Art 118, Leopold Town got an A in CS 101, and then Andre Rohan got an an A in History 107. So again, since that information is in the classes table, we also need to join that table and make it a multi-join kind of query here. All right, I'm going to take away that class requirements for one more example. So let's add one more data record. And let's say Andre Rohan, just a smarty, and let's say he also got an A in class number 2, whatever class that is. So I'm actually just going to run that in my shell. So I don't want to rerun the entire script. So let's do insert enrollments, student ID. So Andre Rohan got an A in class number 2 also. All right, so insert it. Cool. So again, my query is back to what it was before. I don't care about class name. I just want to know which students have gotten an A in any class. I don't care about the class. I just want to know if they have an A. So I run this, run that query. I'll do /I queries.sql. Oops, yeah, sorry, dropped that out of my query too. All right, so we got the correct answer, but there's a small problem here. Notice that Andre Rohan is listed twice here. Well, that's great, but for my task, I just want to know which student has an A in one or many classes. I don't care, if they have 5 A's or just 1 A. I just want a single list, name the student. In this case, in most circumstances, I don't want this listed twice, right? It's the same student, but he's listed twice because he has an A in 2 different classes. Anyone know how we could limit this so that I don't see duplicates here? Anyone happen to know the SQL keyword for that?
Using group by?
I don't think we can use group by. It's a good suggestion. The reason I don't think we use group by is because we're not aggregating anything here. So we do group by first name. Let's try using 1 and 2. I think that was a shortcut for the columns. Let's see if this works. I'm unsure, but I don't think it will. Oh, that did work. I stand corrected. I thought group by only works for when you're aggregating things, but apparently not. So cool. That works. Another way, so this was not the way I was thinking, but great. Yeah, thank you for that suggestion. I learned something today. You can also do distinct. distinct, if I can type correctly. This will say limit to one record, even if you have duplicates. So if I do Control L, that should also work. So notice I get one record again. So distinct will say omit duplicates.
For those of us not as smart as Yiping, can you walk us through the group by and exactly what it was doing when you had the 1, 2? What is it referring to, and what's it's referencing?
Yep. This was a trick that I learned from just the workshop yesterday. This is a shortcut saying group by. This 1 refers to your first column that you specified here. So it's kind of referencing first name here, and then 2 is referencing the last name here. So we can even do group by just 1 because we have unique names right now. So if I run this query again, oh, I guess we need all of it because that's what we're returning. So never mind. Kind of learning as we go here. But yeah, so we're just saying, hey, based on what we get resulted back, kind of condense any duplicates that we get for the pair of first name and last name. So again, 1 and 2 just refers to this and that. That's a shortcut.
So this is essentially like how we would have created like a function, like if it was mapping or whatever, right? Oh yeah, that's what I was going to ask. So we can just write whatever we want in there.
Yeah, so that works too. So we're just referencing columns. Sorry, John, you kind of lost me on the functions part. So.
Oh, kind of like, if you create like a mapping function, you can do like A comma B and then put like A plus B, right? So it's like A, B is taking in the parameters and then A, B is the function that goes with the mapping. It just kind of reminds me of that. I don't know if they're correlated in any way.
Sorry, yeah, that's something that I'm not familiar with, so I'll kind of take your word for it. Okay, one last thing before we take a break. I know we've been going long. I introduced aliasing. So this is something I usually do just to make it a little easier. If you add kind of just a name after your table, that's going to alias it. So in this case, let's add our second, classes here on, what was it? Classes .id equals enrollments .class ID. All right, so this is where we were listing out the class name also. So let me add in classes .name. See if this still works. Control L, my favorite shortcut now. Oops. All right, so since I aliased it, I can use that here. And this makes it a little easier to type, in my opinion. So in this case, I've named them kind of just short variables. So now I could just do things like this. And even my query, though I don't need it, I think it's good to be clear that, hey, first name is coming from my students table, even though it's kind of already going to grab it from there. So if I do it this way, I should be able to get the same results. All right, there we go. So we have same results. Looks like Andre Rohan got it. Yeah. How do you get a history 107 twice? I thought this should have been what class? So CS is class 1. Why was he not listed here? Did I must have not entered the data correctly when I did it by hand. So let's add that in here. All right, run that again. And now I have multiple records, but that'll go into my second part of my lecture. Let's take a break after this. All right, so CS 101, I duplicate some data, which is bad. There is a way to kind of protect yourselves from that also. We'll get to that after break. So any questions on writing this query? The one thing I sort of want to introduce at the end, again, you can alias your tables. So then it makes it much easier to write your queries. And again, it makes it, in my opinion, easier to read. Like E, I can automatically just know that's enrollments because I have an enrollments table. C, classes as students. So it's pretty easy when I look at this. It's not descriptive of what C is, but in my use case, I know C is classes. So that's usually the way I'll go about it. It's creating aliasing, so I don't have to keep writing out students each time, right? I was doing that initially. But cool. All right, I'm gonna take a break here. Sorry for kind of going a little long. So 11:11 here. Let's take a 9-minute break. Please be back at 11:20, and then we're gonna cover, again, not too much new material, but I guess we'll just stop recording here.